Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangl.
Well, welcome to episode number 47 of the Monday Money Tip Podcast. My name is Joseph Sangl, fired up on this Monday to bring you yet another episode, and I'm so excited about this episode. I'm here with my co-host, the lovely Jen Sangl, my bride of nearly 22 years in just 11 days. Get fired up.
11 days?
11 days from the release of this podcast episode.
Ooh, we better get planning our anniversary.
Woo! How do you know I've not already planned it?
I hope you have.
All right. So tell everybody what we're going to be talking about today.
It's the last Monday of the month, and that means it's time for us to answer your top money questions. These will be answered in a rapid-fire style, and we will get through as many as possible.
And so we're going to talk about things like financial aid for higher education, home equity lines of credit, saving money, how do credit repair scams work, and credit repair scams, that's hilarious, and what does repossession mean? And so we're going to answer those questions. It's going to be a wide variety. So we're going to be talking about student loans, housing stuff, saving stuff, credit, and bad debt stuff, apparently. So that's going to be awesome. But before we dive into all of that, we're going to be talking about that great, wonderful part of the podcast. You know that part. Let's go.
Now it's time to get caught up with our current money events.
This portion of the podcast is sponsored by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. Take your finances to the next level by utilizing their financial tools and calculators. Visit www.iwbnin.com and click on tools, budget templates, debt freedom calculators, retirement calculators, investment calculators. They're all right there at your fingertips, and they are free.
Yes. And so today's current money events section, is about something far greater than money. For today, it is Memorial Day. And so I'm going to break in on this and tell everybody a little bit about Memorial Day. And Memorial Day, tell everybody, babe, about what that is specifically.
Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States for remembering and honoring persons who have died while serving in the United States Armed Forces.
That's right. And it is a very important day. I know some people view it as just a vacation day, but I think it is very important that we stop and remember. And today, I remember my great-uncle, Paul Barman. Paul was my great-uncle who served in World War II, where he perished. Of course, I never met him. He was married to my most favorite aunt in the world. You met her before she passed away, my great-aunt La. Her name was Eleanor. And when my mother was a little girl, it was her aunt, and she couldn't pronounce Eleanor, so she called her La, and so it became her name, Aunt La. She was only married for 1 year to Paul, and most of that time he was overseas, and they never had the opportunity to begin their family, and she lived for nearly 90 years and had no children. And so really, me and my 5 brothers, the 6 of us, she was kind of like a grandparent to us, and she loved us more than life itself, and we loved her. And she always wanted to give us a big old smooch whenever she saw us. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can see a picture of one of my brothers visiting our great Uncle Paul's grave, where he's buried in a United States cemetery in France. And I remember a sacrifice on this Memorial Day. I remember his parents' sacrifice, as he was their only son. He wasn't required to serve, but he chose to. I remember his bride's sacrifice, where she lost her true love in its infancy. And I'm not alone, for many people have been touched by the lives of those who've given the ultimate sacrifice. So today, on this Memorial Day, can I encourage you to share with your family the stories of those who fought and weren't able to come home? We owe them a tremendous debt. With great gratitude, I sign it to my Uncle Paul, my great Uncle Paul, Joe. I appreciate your sacrifice. And so Memorial Day, hugely important. In fact, I just want to add a tidbit to that in the cemetery, which is spectacularly and impeccably maintained, that in the springtime, the trees that are planted there prepare to bloom. And right as they're prepared to blossom, they cut all the trees. They prune them to prevent them from blooming, in a symbolic gesture that all of these men were cut down in the prime of their life and never had a chance to blossom. And in fact, the graves are most commonly visited by nephews and nieces and great-nephews and nieces because most of them were never able to start a family. We lost a lot as a nation, and we should certainly give them a day to memorialize them. Awesome. So that brings us to a success story time of the podcast. And today we're going to talk about Cheryl Lisa's story. So share Cheryl Lisa's story.
This experience has been a godsend for me. After attending the initial session, I was laid off, but with no severance.
With a severance.
Oh, I'm sorry, but with a severance. Thanks to be God. I am not worried because I know that when there were other things I faced, God was very faithful and took care of me. I want to say that the biggest win is seeing it all in writing really made me realize that I waste money, spending it without having a plan. Now, my hubby and I have a plan, and we have put our money on a mission. The biggest challenge is to not pull out the credit card, and I'm learning to just say no to buying things that I want that are not part of the budget. I have put some spending money in the budget so I don't face this challenge. Thanks and God bless. Cheryl Lisa.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl Lisa, for sharing that story. So excited for what's going to happen for you in the future because you have put your money on a mission. I love the way that you phrased that. And I would encourage all the podcast listeners, put your money on a mission. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And we're so grateful for those of you that listen every single week where you're putting your money on a mission because that's how you're going to fund your biggest dreams of your life. It's how we've done it. And I want you to be able to experience it as well. So thank you so much, Cheryl Lisa, for sharing your success story. You're on your way to great financial success and a fully funded life. And so now we get to move into that great part of the podcast where we get to answer your featured questions, the questions you have asked. And of course, we always like to answer your questions, and we do that on the special episode at the end of each month. And so today, we're going to talk about a bunch of them. I'm supposed to answer them allegedly, rapid fire style. So I'll try my best because I've got a lot of words to say. So let's go. What's the first question?
How can I help my child get financial aid for higher education?
Well, financial aid for financial education. Well, about 3 episodes or so ago, we talked about how do you fund your kids' college. So make sure you listen to that episode. We'll have a link to that here in the podcast show notes. But here's some critical things that they can do. They can fill out every single scholarship application as soon as it becomes available. Make sure that you fill out the FAFSA, the free application for student aid. The earlier, the better. So the free application for federal student aid, the earlier you fill it out, the better. That's when the most money is available. They start applying that money. Make sure you do that. And then encourage your students to achieve excellent grades. We bribe ours. They get $20 if they get all A's and $10 if they get all A's and B's. And so I bribed them openly to get excellent grades. Speak to that.
Something else that about the bribing or just in general. Yes, we do bribe them. And our son, it's very motivating because that is their job right now is school and learning. And so, yeah, we do bribe them. And it works.
And then we're going to meet with another thing that I encourage you to do to help them get financial aid for higher education is meet with the guidance counselor often. Ask them if there are any new scholarships or grants available. Get on their email list and go see them and know them on a first name basis. Speak to that.
Something else that I would encourage you to do and something I learned is get your applications in early. Go ahead and do all your research and take your ACT, SAT, get everything lined up junior year so that when that August of senior year rolls around, you're filling out applications. Because number one, usually the sooner you fill them out, get your application in, your better chances of getting in. And then the sooner you say yes to that school, they can start looking at the school scholarships. And so if you say yes early, there's more scholarship money available. Yeah. So plan ahead and start early.
And that's a big deal. Our daughter is a college athlete, and there's a time where they have a signing period, a national letter of intent. They usually have 2 signing periods. That early signing period is super important. If you have everything done and prepared for the test and all that, and then they know that you have good academic grades and you're an academic grant, that allows that coach to maximize their scholarship money. They're more willing to give you a more committed number if you're saying, I'm going to sign early. And our daughter was able to do that. She signed on her birthday. She was so proud. It was awesome. So the next question is what?
What is a home equity line of credit?
A home equity line of credit. Well, let me explain it. If your home is worth more than you owe, there is money that you could get from it That means equity. That's the word for it, is equity. You have equity in your home. That's value that is in your home. If you choose to sell your home and settle your debt mortgage against it, that is value. And banks will lend you money based upon that value. That would be called a home equity line of credit. And it's also known as a HELOC, which HELOC stands for home equity line of credit. And it makes it possible for you to use that equity on demand. Now, this can be a good thing. This can be a bad thing. This can be a terrible thing. You know, many people have done this to make needed repairs on their home, purchase a car, go on vacation, but it's usually a terrible idea. It usually ends up being something that costs you more. It makes your house less able to take a decline in home value. And many people who get home equity lines of credit end up doing it over and over and over and over again. They end up paying off their home mortgage, and they owe just as much as they ever owed because they kept drawing the equity out of the house along the way. And so they've basically been renting their home the whole time. And it can be a strategy, but it's usually not a good one if you're wanting to build wealth and really prosper. And so I can really encourage people, that's not a very good idea most times. What's the next question?
How can I save more money?
How can you save more money? That's a broad question. I like it. How can I save more money? Well, I'm going to answer it simply. Spend less than you earn. That'd be really good. And let me tell you some other ways, though, because that's kind of my smart aleck answer, right? If some of you don't know this, but I want to answer some questions smart aleckly, but I can't. I try to be nice. But how can I save more money? Well, spend less than you earn, right? But let me tell you some other ways. Earn more money. It's another way to save money. Earn more money. How do you earn more money? Ask your boss for a raise. Work overtime. Get a second job. Have a little small business at your house. I know a lot of people have a little side business at the house. It's a side hustle where they can produce extra income. Another one is maybe having a rental home or a side business. That's extra streams of income that diversifies your income and helps you save more money. Another way is obvious to me, not so obvious that those that haven't figured it out yet, but preparing and following a written budget every month. Woo! That can be a great way to save money. And the fifth one, get your friends on board with budgeting and frugal living. That way they stop asking you to do stuff that blows your money. And get them on the journey with you. That way, instead of going out to eat, they'll come to your house. It's way cheaper, a lot more fun. You know, you get angry looks if you have kids that are driving people crazy at the restaurant. So I don't know if you would speak into any of those 5 ideas on how to save more money. Any that you like more than others?
I think the big one for us was just going to cash envelopes and helped us stick to our budget so that we could save money. And also remember why you're saving money. Is it for a certain vacation? Is it so you can put your kids through college? Is it, you want to buy a bigger purchase, like some new furniture or something? It'll help you say no to the little stuff.
Absolutely. How can I save more money? Spend less than I earn more money, create extra streams of income, prepare and follow that written budget every month and use those cash envelopes that Jen mentioned, and get your friends on board with budgeting and frugal living. It'll make life way easier on saving money. Let's go to the next question.
How do credit repair scams work?
How do credit repair scams work? Now, that's kind of hilarious because they actually said, how do credit repair scams work? So the fact that you called them scams should answer your question. It is a scam. And here's how it works. I'll tell you how the scam works. It's not really a scam. It's actually a legitimate way that they get stuff working, but it's usually a scam. You could probably do it yourself. That's why I would call it a scam. But most work this way. You sign over legal authority for the company to access your credit reports, and then they make recommendations that can help you remove negative or inaccurate items or negotiate terms to address each one. That's what happens. So they basically look over your credit report and say, hey, look, challenge everything that reports negatively. And those people have to prove that it is indeed a negative event. And if they can't, within a certain period of time, usually about 90 days, they are forced to remove it from your credit score. And so a lot of the companies can't keep up with all the people arguing with them And so it gets removed. It doesn't mean that you don't owe it anymore. It just means that they can't report it negatively against your credit. And you can do the most of this work on your own simply by obtaining your credit reports for free at annualcreditreport.com. And annualcreditreport.com allows you to have free, fair, and unfettered access to your credit reports at least once a year from the big three credit reporting agencies of Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And so we'll have a link to that in the show notes for annualcreditreport.com. I encourage you to do that even if you don't have credit issues, just to make sure there's no fraudulent things happening on your credit and that it's accurate. What's the next question?
What does repossession mean?
What does repossession mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it means someone takes possession of your possession. And so that means that someone once possessed the item, a car, for example. They loaned you money and gave you possession of the item. And if you fail to live up to the terms of the agreement, they will come take the item back. And that means they now possess it again, which means they repossessed it. And so that's what repossession means. I think that makes it pretty clear. But, you can have a lot of things repossessed. I mean, they finance lots of things. They can repossess a car. They can repossess a house. They can repossess a lot of things. And the people that I know that have went through repossession, they're not happy about it. And it's very humiliating and humbling, especially if it happens publicly. It's awful. And it's hard to have your house repossessed without it being public. It's hard to have your car repossessed without it being public. And so that's why we really want to help people that are struggling so that they don't have to encounter that. It's very humiliating to help people really be able to prosper and make progress forward. And they don't have to know what repossession feels like anymore. And so that's all of the questions that came in that we wanted to answer in this episode. And so the Helpful Tool and app is that website for those free credit reports, annualcreditreport.com. And today's key financial quote of the episode is, I stopped being broke long before my bank account showed it. And that's me. We really did stop being broke long before the bank account showed it, didn't we?
We did.
And it started with a mindset shift.
Yeah.
And took us about 14 months to pay off all of our debt, except for the house. And then our bank account started showing it.
Yeah.
14 months from about December of 2002 to February or so of 2004. And then all of a sudden, up and to the right we went. It was awesome. So now we've come to that hot seat section of the podcast. So ask me some questions.
Dinner with a person, past, present, or future of your choice. Who would you pick?
Dinner with a person of your choice, past, present, or future. Great question. That is a great question. I would love to have dinner. Can I do past, present, and future?
Sure. We can do a 3.
Dinner with a person of my past. I would like to eat dinner with my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Who is?
I don't know, but I want to see how much we're like them. That would be awesome. A present. I would love to have dinner with with the president of the United States. Whoever the sitting president is, I'd like to have dinner with the president. That'd be fun. And I'd probably stick some of the China in my pocket. No, I wouldn't. I would ask them for permission to do that. And then future, I want to have dinner with my great-great-great-grandson or granddaughter. Any of those. I don't even know how many greats I just said. I think it was 3 greats, but that'd be awesome. It'd be like 127. It'd be awesome. Probably won't be there, but that's who I'd pick.
On that, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
This is not a valid hot seat question. What kind of legacy you want to leave? Like, we're going to get all serious now?
Yes.
I want to leave a legacy. Oh, my goodness. Well, I want to leave a legacy of faith. I want to leave a legacy of marriage to one woman forever. Be awesome. And I would like to leave a legacy of financial knowledge and leave them a legacy of an inheritance and what to do with it once they get it so that it blesses them and doesn't harm them. Mm-hmm. And I do want to speak to that. Legacy really matters to all of us, more than we let on. some people are nonchalant and say, well, I was broke and they'll just be broke. And, but if they're serious before themselves and before the Lord, they would say, you know what? That's not my good answer. It's not my best answer. So I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy of fun. I want to do fun things. I want to leave a legacy of memories, vacations and trips and things. And I want to leave a legacy of considering the possibilities and the glass is half full, even if there's a drop in it. Let's go. What type of legacy you want to leave? I encourage you to think about that, podcast listeners. That's a good question.
What would be the title of a book about your life?
I was broke, now I'm not. Actually, there is a book near you at the Amazon store near you. No, what would be the title of a book about your life? I think that's it. I was broke, now I'm not.
That is our story.
Woo! And so next episode, tell everybody what we're going to be talking about.
So our next episode is going to be, we're going to talk about the U.S. national debt.
I might get fired up on this one. This one might be an episode like none other. You might hear the fired up, raging machine of Joe Sangl when we talk about that topic.
Well, the question is, we give quarterly updates on the U.S. national debt, but next week we will dedicate an entire episode to explaining the debt and what you can do to help.
Woo! I'm telling you right now, that one might need parental advisory on the side of it because I'm going to be a raging inferno. I'm not going to say bad words, I promise you, but I'm going to say...
You'll say them loudly.
I'm going to say loud things, and it's going to be awesome. Get fired up. I can't wait for that episode. Hey, listen, if you like today's episode, please help us get this podcast to other people you feel could benefit from it. You can do this by quickly rating our podcast and leaving a review. These ratings and reviews will help us in making our podcast better for our listeners. On the last Monday of the month, just like today, we'll be answering your top money questions. If you have a question that you would like answered, please email it to us at info@iwbnin.com. It could be featured on the podcast. And if you've implemented one of our tips, please, please, please share your success stories with us. This podcast is powered. It's fueled by your success. Email it to us as well at the same email address. And as we go out of this episode of the podcast, I do want to say thank you to my fine bride for being a part of the podcast.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. And she's been sitting in for my normal co-host, Megan Hibbard, who's out being a mother to her brand new child. And so we can't wait for the next episode. We're going to be a raging inferno, fired up itis, talking about the U.S. national debt. Until then, I know you'll count down the days to that episode. I want you to have a great Monday, a productive week, make progress with your finances. And listen, let me challenge you to do one thing. Do one thing today to take your finances to the next level. And if you are listening to it on Monday, take some time to reflect on Memorial Day and what it means to you and your family in this nation. Get fired up. We'll see you next time, next Monday.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit iwbnin.com. We'll catch you next time.